Welcome back in
Pod.
the Chris Mathis podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mathis, joined by my brother, Spencer Mathis. Turns 21 today right here on the podcast. So wish him a happy birthday at L Savage Spence on Twitter. And Instagram is just L Spencer Mathis. Check him out on both of those social medias. But today, big time show for you guys. A lot of NBA talk, some NHL talk, as well as we advance to the next round of those playoffs. And then round it out with our next Talk to Him too. Well, I shouldn't say next. We might have one between now and then. But a Talk to Him Tuesday solidified for late June, early July. And it's a pretty awesome guest. We'll have more on that here near the end of the show. So stay tuned. Don't click out of this. You guys do not want to miss it. But talking some NBA playoffs, player of the week. Mine goes out to Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum, who dominated in that series against Milwaukee, a 7-game series. He had 28 points per game in that series, 6 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. And then in game 7, in which they knocked the Bucks out, he put up 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. Again, talking about Boston's Jason Tatum. He is my player of the week right here on TCM Pod.
Yeah, Jason Tatum with another incredible series, advancing them to the next round. I've got to go with Luka Doncic here. He put up 31 points per game so far in the playoffs with an average of 6 assists and 10 rebounds. Yesterday in Game 7 against the Phoenix Suns, he put up 35, had 10 rebounds. A little bit unusual, just 4 assists for him, but he is the best playmaker in the league right now, and I think he's going to give them a real shot to defeat the Warriors in the next round.
As we get into the heart of the podcast, a shout out to our sponsor of the Big Three ticket items right here on the Chris Mathis podcast, brought to you by Information on Demand Pre-Employment Background Screening Services. They're offering fast, accurate, and affordable background screening services. Whether you need criminal background checks, drug screenings, E-Verify, academic accreditations, or other screening services, Information on Demand Pre-Employment Background Screening Services has you covered. You can rest easy knowing a highly trained search team will get you the information in just 8 hours or less. That's right, 8 hours or less. Let them take care of you guys. Information on Demand. They're fast, accurate, and affordable pre-employment background screenings. Give them a call today, 855-914-4636. Check out the link in the description or visit informationondemand.net as they bring you guys the Big Three. And, of course, NBA playoffs continue on Tuesday as the Boston Celtics take on the Miami Heat. Going to be a great series there. I think it'll be cool to see who can come out on top in the East because it's going to be a tough matchup either way, who they'll take on in the Western Conference with Dallas and Golden State. But in this series, I'm going to have to go with Boston. I like Jason Tatum a lot. I'm going to stick with my player of the week. I think it goes 6 or 7 games. Jimmy Butler's going to be there, ready to go for Miami. It's going to be a good competitive series, and I don't think that either team just runs away with this series between Boston and Miami here on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's basically going to be a series of Jason Tatum versus Jimmy Butler. It's going to be a great series. It reminds me of the early 2010s whenever LeBron first went to the Miami Heat. This would be a series that you saw in 2010, 2011, and 2012. And, of course, Miami won most of those, at least 2 out of 3 of those. But in this series, I'm going to have to go with the Celtics. I think Jason Tatum and his supporting cast has done a great job. Tatum averaging 28 points per game so far in the playoffs. But Jimmy Butler, on the other hand, is also averaging 28. But I just think the Celtics are a better defensive squad. They're going to be able to shut down Jimmy Butler. And I've got the Celtics in this one. I think it's going to go to 6 or 7. I'm going to say Celtics in 6.
It's been a pretty close series between these two teams this season. They've only played 3 games. But it has been pretty much a split. One team, of course, has a 2-1 lead. Boston leads the series against Miami 2-1. Celtics went 1-0 at Miami, and then the team split their games in Boston. I think, obviously, injuries are going to play a key into this. And looking at the Heat, point guard Kyle Lowry will not be ready to start the series. He has a hamstring issue. But Miami went 4-0 against Philadelphia without him. And 0-2 with him trying to play while trying to overcome that hamstring injury. So if you look at the numbers and looking at the track record, if he's not 100% and you're trying to force him, don't. You're 0-2. When you go on without him and move on as if he's not going to play the series, they are 4-0. And hopefully that'll bode well for the Miami Heat. But Kyle Lowry, obviously a guy that you want out there. He's got a lot of playoff experience from Toronto just a few short years ago. And even to have him on the bench will be very, very beneficial for Miami here in this playoff run against a very prominent Boston Celtics team that's been in the playoffs year in and year out since I was a kid, really.
Yeah, Celtics in 6.
Celtics in 6. Okay, I'm going to go with, I don't know, I think 6 or 7, but Boston will win that series. Moving on now to Dallas against Golden State. Steph Curry against Luka. Spencer set that one up on the tee just right. These two guys are going to be basically the storefront, the lead in for this series. And Steph Curry, where's he going to pull up from? Can he score 35, 40 points a night? He doesn't need to because of his surrounding cast, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. But Steph Curry, obviously an X factor any given night. Can Luka carry his team to a series and beat a team that's already been in the playoffs? They know what it takes to win. They've got a healthy Klay Thompson back this season. Do you think that Golden State wins this series? If not, how can Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks run away with a victory here in this series, Spence?
I mean, Luka's a stud. He's one of the best players in the NBA. And if you're a Atlanta fan, I think you've really got to be kicking yourself because the Hawks did draft Luka, immediately traded him for Trae Young. Trae Young's a guy that you put on a team that already has a bit of a cast and he can maybe elevate you to championship status. Luka's a guy that can be near by himself. He's got a couple of decent surrounding cast members on his squad, but he controls the entire flow of the game. He'll take the ball down all the way until there's 3 seconds left on the shot clock, dish it out, or just do his little step back that he does so well. He's a good range shooter, but the thing in this series is I think if any team has a chance to knock out Luka, it's this right here. I think the Warriors are going to knock off the Mavericks in this series. I think Draymond Green can guard Luka for a good 10 minutes a half, and then you've got Wiggins that can also guard Luka a little bit. So they have a little bit of leadway here with who can guard Luka in this series. A lot of teams just assign one guy to him and Luka will cook him. These guys can switch out interchangeably. So I think the Warriors do have a really good shot to defeat Luka. I'm going to say Warriors in 7 in this one. Luka's going to have to play near perfect if they want to win this series, and I just don't think that's going to happen with the amount of I think they're going to have to double team Luka every single game, at least half the game. He's their offense, and I've got the Warriors with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Wiggins. I think they're a better team.
Yeah, unfortunately for Dallas, they only are without one player, and that's Tim Hardaway. He is out with a foot injury. And then Golden State, obviously, day-to-day with Andre Iguodala and his neck. Otto Porter, game-time decision with a foot issue. Gary Payton has been ruled out for this game on Wednesday, and James Wiseman is out for season with that knee injury that he had a few months back. But again, it's going to come down to can Luka carry this team, and if he's unable to, can his teammates step up and take advantage of any pass given to him? Because in a game like this, Luka is going to be for sure ball dominant as if he's not already, but he has to be in this situation or else they're going to be out in 4 or 5 games. So Luka will be the takeover guy, the X factor as expected. And I think it'll be fun to see Steph Curry and Luka go head to head. And Steph Curry averaging fewer points than Luka Doncic this season, but that doesn't say too much because, again, as you said, Steph Curry has a better supporting and surrounding cast than Luka does, and Luka has less experience. What is he, 23 years old and putting up huge numbers? So we'll see how everything shakes out with this series. I'm going to go 6 games. Warriors prevail over Dallas in this series. It'll be Golden State against Boston in that championship here in a little over a week, in my opinion. But either way, I'm not a diehard NBA fan, so I'm excited to see whichever team wins. I think that both teams are fun to watch when it comes to the Warriors and the Mavericks. I would like to see the Warriors out, although I do like Steph Curry and his game and whatnot, even though they haven't been back to the finals in quite some time or they haven't won a ring in quite some time. They had a very dominant, 4 or 5 year stretch where they were in and out of that finals every other year. And that little run right there kind of, made me tired of Golden State, of Steph Curry, just like the New England Patriots until Tom Brady left New England and came to Tampa. I was not pulling for Tom Brady to make another playoff run or a Super Bowl appearance. So that's kind of my take on Golden State. I think they are by far the better team. They probably will win this series. I'd put money on Golden State to win this series, but I'm just tired of Golden State. getting in there, even though it has been a little bit, a couple of years since they did. And obviously, Klay Thompson has been hurt with some ACL injuries over the last couple of seasons. He's healthy. It's fun to watch Klay. That guy is super fun. One dribble, pull up and shoot type guy. And I think it'll be cool to see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson almost back in their prime, if you will, if they can stay healthy throughout this playoff run and maybe make another title run.
Yeah, one guy left on the planet, humanity on the line. If he misses this shot, humanity's over. The humans are over. You know who I want? I want Iguodala. I want Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, I mean, he's been clutch. But he's kind of game time decision right now with that neck injury. So we'll see if he's a go on Wednesday as Golden State takes on Dallas. Who do you guys have? Tweet at us, TCM_pod, your predictions between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks on Tuesday. And, of course, the Golden State Warriors. Boston Celtics against the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors against the Dallas Mavericks. Tweet us at the Chris Mathis, at L Savage Spence. Before you hop right in to this playoff hockey talk, down to the final 8 teams, we're talking Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, St. Louis Blues, Colorado Avalanche, New York Rangers against the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Calgary Flames against the Edmonton Oilers. Spence, take it away with our first series taking place on Tuesday as the Tampa Bay Lightning take on the Florida Panthers in the Battle of Florida at 7 p.m.
Yeah, look, if you haven't been watching NHL playoff hockey, then push your rock off of you, get from under that rock and turn on your TV and watch playoff hockey. I mean, we've had a couple of game 7s. It's the best game 7 atmosphere in any sport, hands down, better than the NBA. You saw both the blowouts on Sunday night in the NBA, so the NHL playoffs are the best type of playoffs, and this is a battle of the big cats. You've got the Florida Panthers versus Andre Vasilevsky, the Tampa Bay Lightning goalie. It's going to be a good series. Last season, this series went to 7 games. The Tampa Bay Lightning ended up pulling it out from under the Florida Panthers, but the Florida Panthers this year are a lot better than they were last year. They're the top goal-scoring unit in the league through the regular season. They put down Ovechkin and his Capitals in the first round of the playoffs. So this is going to be a good series, and I've got the Lightning in this series in 7. It's going to have to go to 7, and the Bolts are going to have to win it in Florida. It's a battle of Florida. I've got Tampa Bay coming out on top.
Yeah, Florida averaging 4 goals per game, first in the league. Tampa Bay not too far behind at 3.48 goals per game, which is tied for 7th in the National Hockey League. Also, with Florida scoring so many goals, they have the most shots on net per game, 37 shots a game. The Lightning just 30 shots per game. And then looking at power play percentage, Florida 24%. Lightning just a little bit behind, 23.9% on the power play. Face-off percentage, Tampa Bay does edge out that feat, 50% compared to 48% for Florida. So I think it'll be interesting. I do think that last year's Lightning team was more consistent. And in that case, Florida still took them 7 games. Even though Tampa Bay did prevail, the Lightning were more consistent last year, and Florida was able to take them 7 games. I don't know. You guys heard me say it last week. I think that the Lightning got past Toronto. They did. I said 6 games last week. They went to 7. Tampa Bay won 2-1 over the weekend to advance here against Florida. I have Florida in the Stanley Cup, which means that Florida beats Tampa Bay in this series if Tampa Bay is not consistent. Now, if Tampa Bay is consistent, they are the best team in hockey from top to bottom. When you look at goal scoring, the averages of numbers, and the star talent on offense, a defense that when they're on their prime, playing at their best, Victor Hedman, they are stacked, and then Vasi in the net for the Tampa Bay Lightning. You talk about big cat against the Florida Panthers. There are a lot of big cats. If Tampa can be consistent from game 1 all the way through the series, they're going to win this, of course. But one slip up, I think if they have one bad game to where you're like, was that the Lightning that we expected here in this playoff run? I think Florida wins, and I don't expect Tampa to play great for 6 or 7 games of this series. I unfortunately do have Florida winning this series in 7. I do think it goes to 7, and as you said, it's going to be played in Florida. Fortunately for Tampa Bay, they did win on the road against Toronto in a hostile environment with some fans that were really upset and crybabying over the weekend when they lost to Tampa Bay after they choked once more in the playoffs. But I think that Florida will have the advantage of this game, and As you said last year, 7-game series, Tampa Bay against Florida. This time around, can Tampa Bay stay as consistent? Tampa Bay is without Braden Point for the foreseeable future, and we'll see what happens with that injury. It's kind of I want to say it's more of a game-to-game type injury right now for Braden Point. I don't think anything official has come out, but it's not necessarily a day-to-day.
Yeah, well, I've got the Lightning in this series in 7. The next series that we're going to be talking about is the St. Louis Blues versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche have one of the best offensive defensemen you're ever going to see. Wayne Gretzky said this guy is going to end up being one of the best offensive scoring defensemen in league history. Just the way he can move. His name is Cale Maker. He leads the playoffs so far in points as a defenseman. That's everybody. He leads everybody. They've also got Nathan McKinnon on their squad, who had 4 goals in the first series. The Avalanche were the favorites coming into the playoffs this season, and I've got the Avalanche defeating the St. Louis Blues. The Blues are a good team. They've got a good defense, but if that defense doesn't hold up, I've got the Avalanche in this one. And with Avalanche's ability to go both ways with their defensemen, they play up often, especially with Cale Maker. I've got Colorado in this game in 6 in this series.
Well, we saw last week Colorado swept Nashville, made it look easy peasy. And right there in the middle of that series, I predicted that they would pull off a sweep. I think that the Nashville Predators were down 2-0 or 0-2 in that series against Colorado. And then I saw Minnesota against St. Louis, and I said Minnesota would win in 6 games. Minnesota did fall short against the St. Louis Blues. I thought the Blues were going to be knocked out last series. I think that the Blues get knocked out this series as Colorado is a very dominant program. They're very fast. They're physical too. And they're a lot of fun to watch. I think that Colorado does prevail here in this series against the St. Louis Blues. Again, I know Paul McBride listening right now, upset with me, probably about to text me if he hasn't already. But I don't know. I just don't see. Now, I do hope for Tampa Bay's sake that, Colorado does fall short to the St. Louis Blues, because I think that if Colorado gets past this team, I'm not sure, what team will be able to knock off Colorado until it comes to that Stanley Cup, in which I have the Florida Panthers prevailing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great series between those two squads. Our next one is the New York Rangers versus the Carolina Hurricanes. This series is going to go to 7. I'm calling it right now. 2 really good squads. The Rangers winning in Game 7 against the Penguins a couple of nights ago. The Hurricanes didn't have to go to 7 games, but the Rangers have a great goalie who did fake an injury once in the playoffs. Shesterkin is a stud. We can't go with that. I mean, he had a 2.07 goals allowed against this season. He went 36-13 with 6 shutouts. And so far in the playoffs, he's been pretty good. He's had some games where he's given up 4 or 5 goals. But if the Rangers can if they can produce how they've been doing on offense and just play a little bit of defense for Igor, I've got the Rangers in this series over the Hurricanes in the East. So I've got the Rangers versus the Lightning in the Eastern Conference Championship.
Yeah, Spence, and how many playoff games did this past series for the Rangers did they go into overtime? I know for sure Sunday night, and then in the first game of the series too, they went to triple overtime.
Yeah, they went 3 overtimes.
3 overtimes. So these guys have played a lot of hockey. As much as I want the New York Rangers to prevail, they have played a lot of hockey. If I'm not mistaken, Carolina has not had to go to a overtime period last series.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with, at the same time, though, you can say that New York has been tested a lot more because, again, they've put the overtime period 3 different times last series against Boston. Right? Against Boston?
Yeah.
So I did have the Rangers winning the last series, but I didn't think it would take all of Game 7 and into overtime for New York to beat Boston. So, therefore, I'm going with the Carolina Hurricanes winning this series in 6 games, Spence. I'm not surprised either way. I would like to see the New York Rangers prevail because I absolutely hate Carolina. But I don't know. All that hockey, there's a lot of wear and tear. I'm surprised that they don't have too many injuries. They've got Barclay Goodrow out with a lower body injury. And then they had a player go out on the IR earlier this season. Carolina Hurricanes, looking at their roster, they've got a hip injury for Jake Gardiner. And then Frederick Anderson, day-to-day. Jordan Martinook, day-to-day as well. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Carolina prevailing here in 6 games against the New York Rangers, which leads us into our next matchup, Spence. And you talk about Battle of Alberta, Edmonton against Calgary.
Yeah, the Battle of Alberta, Canada. This has been a series that's been going on since the 1980s when Gretzky was with the Oilers. I mean, this is going to be a great series. This one is going to Game 7 as well. I think 3 out of these 4 series are going to 7. The only one that I don't think is going to go to Game 7 is the Blues versus the Avalanche. But in hockey, whenever you're in the playoffs, you really don't want to have those rest days that the Avalanche had. And they had a lot of them. They've been off for a week. They swept their last opponent. They've got to play the Blues, who just came out of their series, so they're still ready to go. You don't really want to take a lot of time off, especially with these day-to-day injuries that every single player has at the moment. You just want to keep going so you don't feel it as much. But in this series, the Battle of Alberta, Canada, I have to go with the Flames in this series. And the reason that I'm going with that is because if you saw last night's game with the goalie, or Sunday night's game with the goalie of the Dallas Stars in Ottinger, who had 64 saves on 67 shots. They lost in overtime with 5 minutes left. The shot right over his right shoulder. Just an unfortunate shot. It's always those weird angle shots that go in overtime. Once a hockey game goes into overtime, if there's not a goal in the first 5 minutes, the worst shot is going to be the one to win the game. And I think that Calgary is going to be able to defeat Edmonton in this series. I know Connor McDavid, one of the best players in the league right now, probably a top 3 in the league for me. Overall, that's defensemen and wingers and centers included. I've got to go with Calgary in this series in the Battle of Alberta. I think it's going to go 6 or 7. I'm going to have to say 6 in this one. No, I got to go 7. 7 for the Battle of Alberta, and I've got the Flames winning it over Connor McDavid's Oilers.
Yeah, this one's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Connor McDavid is one of those players that, even if you don't watch hockey, you know Connor McDavid because he's always on the highlight reels on ESPN. He is a human highlight reel. The way he shifts with the puck on a stick it's next level. I don't know of anybody that can move quite like he does.
He's not.
And he's shifty with it. I got to see him live here in Tampa a few weeks ago. I'd say a couple of months ago at this point, probably 7 or 8 weeks ago. Got to see Connor score 2 goals in the matter of 5-6 minutes. Made it look so easy, swift in between the defenses. His upper body can move unlike any other. I don't know. He's able to, kind of shimmy his shoulders a bit and throw you off with the way his hips are moving and where he's skating with the puck. But as you guys heard me say last week, I had Edmonton and this Stanley Cup. And in order to get to the Stanley Cup, they have to get past the Calgary Flames. So Edmonton and the Stanley Cup, the Flames are going to lose this series. I'm going to say 7.
Yeah, I think 3 of these series are going to 7, and there's always a possibility that the Avalanche Blues series can go to 7 as well. Like I said, with the rest that the Avalanche have had, they're a bit of an experienced team. This is their window. This is their year if they're going to go win. They're set up a little bit for the future, but you look at the New York Rangers, who are a very young squad. That game's going to go to 7 versus Carolina. I don't know if the Rangers are really going to pull that out. I've got the Rangers winning it, but a young squad that's going to be even better next year. They'll definitely be competing for the Stanley Cup. But I think 3 of these games go to 7. I've got the Lightning, I've got the Rangers, I've got the Avalanche, and I've got the Flames pulling out these series. So it's going to be great. You got to watch playoff hockey if you want to see some Game 7s that are not blowouts like you saw in the NBA on Sunday. I mean, both of those games were over 30-point gap at the end of the game, and you saw Jason Tatum absolutely dominate. You saw Luka Doncic dominate. You saw the Suns star Devin Booker put up like 5 points in the first half total combined with CP3. So NHL playoffs are something you've got to tune into, and they're on all night long, starting from 7 to 10 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and you just did a recap of your picks for this round of the state playoffs this week. Check them, or not state playoffs, NHL playoffs. I've got Panthers beating the Lightning. I've got Avalanche over the Blues, Carolina over the Rangers, and Edmonton beating Calgary this week. But again, for those of you that have never watched a hockey playoff round, how would you tell them to do so, Spence? Because I think this is one of those sports, you said it earlier in the show, that a Game 7 for hockey is much more different than a Game 7 for NBA. And I think that the hockey format, the playoff format for hockey, is the best of all sports.
Oh, 100%. And as game sevens go, I've got it ranked in this order. I've got NHL, then I've got baseball playoff game sevens, and then you've got NBA game sevens. So turn off your
Ooh,
NBA game, get on Twitter. If it's say you're still awake, it's like 11 p.m. If you see Twitter, you hit refresh and it says, hey, Lightning Panthers are going into overtime. Tune in now. Click that damn link and tune in because that game is going to be amazing. And even if you don't watch hockey at all, a hockey overtime, just the atmosphere alone with the crowd's reaction on every single shot, every single save. I mean, it's unbeatable. It's the best in any sport.
Yeah, and also with hockey, it's fun to keep up with on Twitter too. So if you're unable to watch every single game, there are a handful of Twitter accounts that retweet a 10-second goal, and you watch that one clip and you hear that crowd go crazy. And the teammates' reaction when they score, when they give up a goal, it's pretty cool. It's a cool experience. And if you've not ever been to a playoff, or not even a playoff game, a hockey game in general, you're missing out. I think that the atmosphere at a hockey game is the best of all pro sports. And that says a lot because football, NFL is by far my favorite overall sport. But when you talk hockey, when you talk going to a game, I'll take hockey all day. I'll also take the hockey playoff format all day because it's a lot of fun. And teams and players go through hell to get from game one, hopefully, to game 5, to game 6 or 7, stay alive. And then at the end of the day, no matter how bad they got beat up, no matter how many teeth were knocked out, they still go to that handshake line at the end of the series and dap each other up, and it's like they don't have any bad blood for each other. It's kind of interesting. It is interesting. It's kind of cool.
No, it's the best.
Kind of weird too.
Because in baseball, you have handshakes for the winners. For some reason, you go out after you win a baseball game in any level and you handshake your own teammates, which is a little bit odd. But after a game 7 in playoff hockey, just looking at the players, speaking to the opposing goaltender, if this game went into overtime, like last night with the Stars and the Flames, I mean, just that handshake line took 15 minutes because everyone was congratulating Ottinger on the performance that he had. I mean, second most saves all time in a game 7, and they ended up losing the game. I mean, hockey, NHL playoffs are the best. And if you're an Atlanta fan, continue to prey on the downfall of the Winnipeg Jets, and maybe you'll get the Atlanta Thrashers back and be able to experience this in person.
Yeah, I would hope so if I'm an Atlanta sports fan. Obviously, they've been able to have a soccer team there, Atlanta United, and they sell out a lot of games. I know for a while there, they sold out years worth of home games. I think 2 consecutive seasons worth of home games. That might be the case still today. I don't really follow pro soccer, but I'm just saying if you're able to hop into that sport and really get into it, have your friends go with you. It's one of those sports that once you've been to one hockey game, you want to go back as many times as you possibly can. And I can't say the same for other pro sports.
No, you can't say the same. Even for NFL, I'm the biggest NFL fan there is. I've got the NFL just above hockey, but a hockey playoff game edges out an NFL game. A hockey game in person edges out an NFL game. Just the crowd's reaction after a goal or an amazing save is 10 times better than a touchdown. I mean, unless it's a game-winning touchdown, you're not getting the same atmosphere that you feel in a hockey game. So tune into the NHL playoffs. Cheer on the Tampa Bay Lightning as they defeat the Florida Panthers in 7, starting on Tuesday, May 17th, which is today. So go tune in, 7 p.m.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll be a lot of fun to watch these playoffs unfold. And moving on now with our other big news here on the Big Three, brought to you by Information on Demand. Our friend Joseph Mancuso has been on the podcast twice now. Had a rookie minicamp tryout with the Indianapolis Colts last weekend. Said it went very well. And obviously, it's just the start of many things for Joe Mancuso. I want to make note, as the recording of this podcast, he did not sign a contract. He simply had a rookie minicamp tryout. But all good things there from what I heard from Joe. And I really like his situation if he's able to sign there, because you look at the Colts, they've got Matt Ryan, and the rest is truly up for grabs. Sam Ehlinger, they also have Jack Cohn from Notre Dame, and then James Morgan on the roster too, who was undrafted. So it's not like if he did sign with the Colts, he's in a situation where there's 2 backup quarterbacks with 5, 6, 7, 8 years of being in the NFL with all of that knowledge of a game plan, of the playbook, of how it, and what it takes to be a pro. He's there with younger guys. I think the oldest quarterback on that roster besides Matt Ryan is 25 years old. Joe is, I believe, 24 years old. So to hop right into that situation, fingers crossed he signs with the Colts. If not, this situation will lead to another door, which will lead to another tryout, and we'll see what else unfolds. But I would monitor our Twitter accounts for this news because, again, this is one of those stories that can change by the time you're listening to this segment of the podcast. Joe could be signed. Joe could have a tryout with another team. You don't know. So check out TCM_pod on Twitter to keep up with the latest news. We make sure to tweet out all of that stuff, especially if it's a guest, a friend of our show. We're going to give all the love, all the recognition to that person, and cheer them on no matter where they go. Even if they go to a team that we dislike, we're going to be pulling for that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's the opportunity to get your foot in the door as an NFL quarterback. And if he did good, I think either way, the scouts that are at the Colts practice are going to tell other teams, even if they don't want to sign him. They do have a couple of young quarterbacks on the roster, but if Joe Mancuso showed out how he can play, I mean, it'd be awesome to see him signed by the Colts. Maybe another opportunity for the preseason. I think he's going to get an opportunity to play somewhere in the 2022 preseason. But moving on to Joe Mancuso's favorite NFL squad, the New Orleans Saints re-signed Jarvis Landry to a 1-year, $3 million deal. Well, not re-signed, but signed Jarvis Landry to a 1-year, $3 million deal with incentives, which is wild because Landry was offered $9 million by the Browns, which is $1 million pay cut from what he was making last season. But he ended up going to the New Orleans Saints to have the opportunity to play with Jameis Winston, the quarterback of the Saints next season, even with this Drew Brees news saying that he could unretire and play football again. I'm pretty sure the Saints ownership would say, hey, we don't want you here, buddy. So, yeah. I mean, Jameis Winston, along with Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, and now Jarvis Landry, Alvin Kamara, if he's out of trouble after that Pro Bowl incident, they're going to be a great team. Their defense is also stout. They've got Demario Davis, Cameron Jordan, still a stud, even though he's like 34. And then they also got Tyrann Mathieu. So if you're looking for a dark horse MVP candidate to place your money on this season, I'm putting all my money down on Jameis Winston. I think this guy's going to put up 4,500 plus yards, 35 plus touchdowns. And as long as he can keep his interceptions under 20, he's got a legitimate shot to win the MVP this season, especially with the Saints schedule, which since they were second place in the NFC South last season, they're going to play second place teams all season long. They're going to have an easier schedule than a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have MVP caliber quarterbacks as well, or Aaron Rodgers Packers. So New Orleans Saints are going to be a great team this year. Jarvis Landry got to New Orleans. He's from LSU. He took a $7 million pay cut basically to go to New Orleans to play with Jameis, and that team's going to be very good. And maybe tying this back into Joe Mancuso, maybe he could go have a tryout with his favorite NFL team in the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course, Joe Mancuso, as you guys heard in our first interview with Joe right here on the podcast, he grew up a Saints fan, so that would be a crazy opportunity, but I know that he's excited for any team that wants to ink him a contract. And he'll give it his all, no matter what city it is, no matter what team, no matter who the coach is. But you talk about the Saints. Jameis Winston as a dark horse MVP. The thing is with Jameis, he doesn't have Sean Payton there to help him out, and that's a huge X factor in my opinion. Sean Payton was, a lot of reason for all those victories over the years for the Saints. That offense was always deadly no matter what, no matter who was on the roster. Even with Taysom Hill at quarterback, sure, Taysom couldn't throw the ball very well, but the game plan from Sean Payton's point of view always adjusted quite well, and he was one of the best, if not, he was top 3 head coach in the NFL, in my opinion, just behind Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick, which Belichick kind of on the downswing right now, looking at his track record and his moves as of late, his roster moves. But I'm not sure. Dennis Allen, a head coach, defensive-minded head coach, what can he do for Jameis Winston?
Well, I mean, if you look at the New Orleans Saints over the past couple of years, their success has come from their defense. I mean, the Saints defense has kept them in games these last couple of years, even with, I don't even remember who they had. Trevor Siemian was their quarterback for 7 games after Winston's injury. And they ended up, I think, with 6 or 7 wins, which is pretty good if you have Trevor Siemian behind center. So, I mean, I think Dennis Allen is going to do good enough with Jameis Winston, and whoever their offensive coordinator is going to have to help Jameis, but he's basically had a year and a half off. He sat 1 year behind Drew Brees, played 6 games last season, and then got that injury that put him out for the rest of the season against Tampa Bay. But I really do think Jameis Winston's going to have an incredible season. I don't care who his head coach is. I mean, even with Bruce Arians, who there was a lot of rumors that they had some sort of rift, even though Arians came out of retirement for Jameis Winston. Winston put up 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, also threw 30 interceptions. But I think Jameis Winston's going to have a top 5 NFL quarterback season this upcoming year.
Yeah, you talk about a dark horse MVP. I think he'll be the comeback player of the year. And dark horse MVP, he might be like 5th in MVP voting. But I do think that Jameis could win and more than likely will win comeback player of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, and he's in a tough division when you look at, well, I shouldn't say entire division, but you look at the Buccaneers, a team that made it to the playoffs 2 straight seasons. Tom Brady's back. Fingers crossed that Rob Gronkowski is back. I bet he is, but time will tell. Gronk is definitely delaying his announcement to come back or to retire and milk that. And I don't blame him, because if you come back now, you have to show up. You know, they want you to show up to all those trainings and summer workouts, whereas if you wait until another couple of weeks, you're able to dip out on those and do your own thing for a little while.
Yeah, the Bucs and the Saints are both going to be playoff teams next year. The NFC South bottom dwellers are very weak. You got the Carolina Panthers always having a ton of injuries, don't know who their quarterback is. You've got the Atlanta Falcons that don't really have anybody besides the new guy they drafted in Drake London. Their defense is all right. AJ Terrell's a pretty good cornerback, but you don't know who their quarterback's going to be. It's going to be Mariota. They're going to probably go 7-10 if I had to guess. So, I mean, the Saints and the Bucs are both going to be in the playoffs just based on the fact alone that the NFC South is not what it once was.
Sam Darnold, the quarterback of the Panthers as of now, he's seeing ghosts. They drafted a quarterback, Matt Corral, in the 3rd round. We'll see if he has a shot to get playing time. And then there's rumors that Jimmy G could end up in Carolina. If that's the case, yeah, Carolina would move on from Sam Darnold. So that would be a tough stretch there. But you just never know. As you guys heard in the beginning of the show, we were going to shout out our next official Talk to Him Tuesday guest, and that is, of course, Gabby Carrier, Director of Marketing and Operations at Fresh Tape Media. There she is with Team USA Olympics. She's on the right. She does an awesome job. Basically, Fresh Tape, they do a whole bunch of studio setups and marketing for big events like the NFL Draft, the NBA Draft, NHL Draft, All-Star Games, Pro Bowls, the whole 9 yards. Here they are doing an interview with James Harden. They're setting up behind the scenes with James Harden. And she is the Director of Marketing and of Operation there at Fresh Tape Media. And she'll be joining us here late next month, early July. I'll keep you guys posted. We'll definitely make a big deal out of it, but it's going to be a lot of fun because that's a lot of work that goes into that. And you see some of that stuff on TV during the draft day, during the Pro Bowl, and you think, oh, wow, that's neat. Well, we're going to talk with her about how that's done, what creative juices flow into coming up with that idea, how it's come about, who takes the photos, who promotes it, how they even get their foot in the door. That's coming up with Gabby Carrier here in the next month and some change.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, you see like a lot of trailers of NBA players, like ads or whatever you want to see like on TV as an advertisement. You see like Luka Doncic videos. Maybe she's one of the creators of that. I saw whenever who was it? Whenever Jokic won the MVP for the 2nd year in a row, I saw their Instagram posts that they had just got done filming him in this same season. So, I mean, she's been around a lot of star players, NBA players, NFL players. She was at the Pro Bowl. She was at the NFL Draft. She's everywhere. I mean, it's an awesome field to get into, and I can't wait to see what she has to say about being there in person with all those superstars.
Yeah, Gabby Carrier, again, will join us here on the podcast in a month and some change for Talk to Him Tuesday. But yeah, I saw a couple of videos where she's directing Patrick Mahomes at the Pro Bowl, where to throw a football, how to spike the football. And it was cool. I mean, she's up close and personal with these guys, and I'm sure she gets to see a side of the athletes that you don't see on media or in the public eye.
Yeah, and to close out the show, I got to go with the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors, Tampa Bay Lightning, Calgary Flames, New York Rangers, and who's that last series? Who's going to win the last series?
Edmonton.
You got
no,
Edmonton?
you already said that.
No, I didn't.
Carolina.
Nope. What's the last series?
I don't know.
You don't know the last series?
Lightning, Panthers, Blues, Avalanche, Rangers, Carolina, Hurricanes, Edmonton, Calgary.
This is a setup for Paul McBride. Paul McBride, your squad is getting taken down in 5 or 6 games by the Colorado Avalanche.